It's Tuesday, May 30. In the headlines, Prime Minister Andrew Holness addresses what he describes a dangerous trend. In business news, Bank of Jamaica encourages the use of artificial intelligence. Regionally, Trinidad and Tobago vies for UN General Assembly presidency. Internationally, China launches mission to space station with first civilian on board. And in sports, Reggae girls to face Panama in CONCACAF Women's Under-20 Championship. This is the news on PBC Jamaica. I'm Simone Absalom Gale. Prime Minister Andrew Holness is lamenting the lack of a tangible interest in Jamaica's political development. He addressed the matter while speaking at Sunday's floral tribute to commemorate the 93rd anniversary of the birth of Jamaica's fifth Prime Minister, the Most Honourable Edward Seaga. Prime Minister Andrew Holness says there is a pressing need for improvement in how politicians conduct themselves. He says that has contributed to voter apathy.
They have a great, but it's more than suspicion. They hold a strong view that all politics is corrupt. They hold a view that politics is an exercise in corruption.
Mr. Holness says he firmly rejects any notion that people enter politics with the intention of destroying the country. He adds, however, pulling away and not participating in politics in any way will not remedy the situation.
The only way to make your circumstances better is to participate, to hold your political representatives to account. It is participation that does that.
He spoke of the unethical use of social media to spread misinformation, describing it as a dangerous trend fueled by negativity and spread by those who should know better.
Media without editing, media without editorialization, media without respect for your rights and privacy and dignity in the way it is being used. The weaponization of misinformation, falsehoods, and lies will not just destroy the society, meaning our shared values, but it will destroy our civilization.
Jamaicans will soon see an additional area code being used on the island. The Office of Utilities Regulation, OUR, has released the first batch of the new 658 area code numbers to telecommunications companies in Jamaica. The OUR's Public Affairs Coordinator, Gordon Brown, says, quote, "The important thing is that people have to get in the habit of saying your phone number with the area code and the 7 digits that follow. We have to break that cycle of saying just the 7 digits that we have been accustomed to." End quote. Mr. Brown notes that the new area code was implemented due to the complete usage of numbers allocated using 876. Speaking with JIS recently, he explained that the 876 area code, which has existed since 1996, was expected to provide sufficient numbering capacity for the next 20 years of demand growth. However, 13 years later, the country had to consider the introduction of a new area code to augment the existing 876 numbering space, resulting in Jamaica becoming the first country in the English-speaking Caribbean to be allocated an additional area code in May 2018. In 2018, data from the OUR indicated that the new area code would provide more than 7 million additional numbers for the next decade. Minister of Finance and the Public Service, Dr. Nigel Clark, says the new Customs Act, when passed, will be transformational. He says it will provide the centerpiece for modernizing the customs landscape. He says that the legislation will better address the complexities of the modern trade and commerce environment and facilitate ease of cross-border trade and other commercial activities. In addition, the Act will improve customs practices and procedures to facilitate trade effectively and efficiently. Speaking at the Jamaica Customs Agency's 10th Anniversary Stakeholders Appreciation Awards recently, Dr. Clark said, quote, "The nature of commerce today is such that those modes of production have to be anticipated by our laws. The good news is that the new Customs Act anticipates all these new modes of production where countries and territories are interacting with each other." End quote. In this week's Living Healthy, we learn about vaccines. Vaccines are among the most powerful innovations in human history. Vaccines help your immune system fight infections faster and more effectively. When you get a vaccine, it sparks your immune response, helping your body fight harmful germs. Thanks to vaccines, we can now fight dangerous diseases and prevent them. Vaccines now give us hope of eliminating cervical cancer through the HPV vaccine.
In 1974, WHO launched the expanded program on immunization to ensure all children in all countries benefit from the life-saving power of vaccines. Initially, for 6 major diseases: diphtheria, pertussis, tetanus, polio, measles, and tuberculosis. At the time, only about 10% of the world's children received 3 doses of DTP vaccine. Thanks to the expanded program on immunization, or EPI, it reached 86% in 2019, but has slipped since then owing to the disruptions of the COVID-19 pandemic and the very big campaign of anti-vaxxers. Today, more than 30 diseases are vaccine preventable. Vaccines are among the most powerful innovations in human history. Vaccines now give us hope of eliminating cervical cancer. Vaccines are helping us to snuff out Ebola outbreaks faster. For the first time, we can say that malaria is a vaccine-preventable disease.
Time now for the Business Report with Danita Rodney.
The Bank of Jamaica is encouraging the use of artificial intelligence. According to the BOJ's Deputy Governor, Dr. G. Lewis, the use of AI technology could be deployed to increase fraud detection and mitigation. It will also analyze the landscape and lay out guidelines.
Human beings are slow at identifying patterns, especially high-frequency transactions that occur over a very short window. But AI has the ability to ingest all that information, identify abnormal patterns, and shut down transactions. And certainly at the bank, we are encouraging our financial institutions to, where feasible, financially feasible, to apply and engage those types of technologies. And of course, if necessary, we will provide the general principles that they should observe as they engage with the technology.
For your market updates, in foreign exchange trading for Monday, May 29, the US dollar sold for an average of $155.48. The Canadian dollar ended trading at $114.96. The pound sterling traded for $191.16, and the euro sold for an average of $170.33. In JSE trading, the JSE index declined by 58 points. The junior market index advanced by 7 points. The combined market index closed at over 300,000 units, and the All Jamaican Composite Index declined by 503 points. Overall market activity resulted from trading in 114 stocks, of which 47 advanced, 51 declined, and 16 traded firm. Stocks advanced for Access Financial Services Limited, Cargo Handlers Limited, and Caribbean Assurance Brokers Limited. Stocks declined for 138 Student Living Jamaica Limited, 138 Student Living Jamaica Limited Verbal Preference, and Barita Investments Limited. Trading firm were AMG Packaging and Paper Company Limited, Siboney Group Limited, and the Community and Workers of Jamaica CCU Deferred Share. The overall volume leaders were Trans-Jamaican Highway Limited with over 9 million units, Spiritory Spices Jamaica Limited with over 5 million units, and Stanley Motor Limited Ordinary Shares with over 3 million units. In regional stocks, in Trinidad and Tobago, Calisa Macro Index Fund posted 54 shares. Zero securities traded on the Barbados Stock Exchange. In regional business, distance learning and online classes were popular before the COVID-19 pandemic, but after 2020, the push to digital learning has exploded. We take a look at the online education company in Trinidad and Tobago.
The COVID-19 pandemic led to the demise of many businesses, yet it spawned others. One local innovator, Kemby Ross Jones's RentMyTutor.com, is an example of a business born during this adverse time.
We're Caribbean's first female-owned ed-tech company that provides one-to-one tutoring to primary, secondary, and university students. Our goal is to provide academic success to all our students, both locally and within the Caribbean.
Mrs. Ross Jones says she founded the business in July 2020 when she realized many students were falling behind in their studies because of the extended lockdown.
We have been recognized by other companies as well, such as the IDB, where we have done work with them in terms of some coding camps. The Chairfair, IDB Chairfair, back in 2021, we would have provided coding, STEM classes as well we provide, and this year actually at the US Embassy we will be hosting a robotics camp.
This businesswoman said educating students is her passion, and she gathered several other educators to launch her business.
So we try to focus mainly on the science, technology, engineering and math, but we do also offer subjects, business subjects, economics, principles of accounts.
According to Mrs. Ross Jones, the company has taken its services beyond Trinidad and Tobago to Jamaica.
We provide another program as well called the Tutor Boost program, where we provide tutoring services to persons who wish to become tutors or already existing tutors, and they want to get their companies off the ground level, so to speak. So we train them and we provide them with these services, and we set them up for success basically.
The educator says growth and expansion are on the horizon for RentMyTutor.com. So the next time you're studying in the wee hours of the morning for that all-important upcoming exam, there are a few online resources you can turn to. RentMyTutor.com is one of them.
In international business, Elon Musk is in China. The country's foreign minister said in a statement that the government welcomed Musk and other business leaders looking to promote mutually beneficial cooperation.
Elon Musk has landed in China. His private jet was seen arriving in Beijing on Tuesday. There was no immediate confirmation the Tesla and Twitter boss was on board, but China's foreign minister later said he had met Musk for a discussion. The billionaire's plans in China aren't clear, but Reuters reported back in March that Musk was planning a visit and seeking a meeting with Premier Li Qiang. He's also expected to visit Tesla's factory in Shanghai. Officials in Beijing welcomed his arrival.
Foreign
Ministry spokeswoman Mao Ning said China wanted to see foreign businesses deepen their presence there. The trip comes as Tesla faces intensifying competition from Chinese electric vehicle makers like BYD. There is also uncertainty around expansion plans for the Shanghai plant. Tesla has said it intends to boost output there by 450,000 vehicles per year. Another question is whether Chinese officials will approve the release of Tesla's advanced driver assistance features. That's part of the full self-driving software it sells in other markets for $15,000 per car.
In market data for oil fell by nearly 2% as concerns about the U.S. debt ceiling pact cooled the market's risk-on sentiment. Brent crude futures fell $1.36 to $75.71 a barrel, and West Texas Intermediate crude was down $1.19 to $71.48. And that was the business report on PBCJ. I'm Danita Rodney.
In regional news, Trinidad and Tobago has offered its candidate for president of the 78th session of the United Nations General Assembly. Sunil Lala has more.
Ambassador Extraordinary and Plenipotentiary Dennis Francis, Trinidad and Tobago's permanent representative to the United Nations, New York, will be contesting the position for president of the 78th session of the United Nations General Assembly. This position is to be elected from the group of Latin American and Caribbean states on June 1st at the UN General Assembly Hall. Minister of Foreign and CARICOM Affairs Dr. Amory Brown first revealed TNT's intention to offer a candidate for the position during his address at the opening session of the UN General Assembly in New York in September 2022. In announcing TNT's candidacy on Monday, Dr. Brown noted that Ambassador Francis has an impeccable record of both qualifications and experience in the field, and said he believes the candidate will be impartial in his duties if elected.
Trinidad and Tobago's election to the presidency of the UN General Assembly constitutes a major foreign policy priority for the government. As a further manifestation of our undiluted faith in multilateralism in general and our commitment to the United Nations in particular.
TTT News understands that Ambassador Francis is the sole candidate, but must still receive 2/3 of the votes when the election is held to secure the position. In a video statement, Ambassador Francis said he is honored to accept the nomination and vowed to address several issues, including global peace.
We must recognize that being in a state of peace is not necessarily the same as the absence of war. Peace requires an all-out commitment. It requires constant nurturing, even during times when there are no hostilities.
Ambassador Dennis Francis has had a career spanning 40 years in the diplomatic service of TNT, 18 of which he held the rank of being the longest-serving ambassador of this country until his compulsory retirement from the career service in 2016. Sonolala, TTT News.
In the Bahamas, in just a few days, the Davis administration will present its second fiscal budget, which lays out the government's financial plans for the next year. Opposition leader Michael Pintard says the budget should reveal the government's plan to grow the economy, among other things. Bethany McDermott reports.
Ahead of the 2023-2024 budget communication, opposition leader Michael Pintard says there are a number of key components needed in the upcoming budget communication, including provisions that lead to economic growth and, by extension, improving the ease of doing business in the Bahamas.
There are local investors who are frustrated. They feel that this government is strangling their business by putting so many requirements on them to simply register or to start a new business. We'd like to know, will the government loosen this grip that it has on businesses?
When the last budget communication was presented, Pintard said at the time the communication fell short of helping grow the economy, adding it failed to address key priorities as Bahamians grapple with the high cost of living. And now, heading into a new fiscal communication, he's asking about funding for small and medium-sized businesses.
They have a chance to improve upon its contribution to the small business community, and we don't see evidence of it.
Pintard says those are just a few examples of how businesses are being strangled. Additionally, he says e-government needs to be fast-tracked to allow for an easier interaction between agencies. He says he's also curious about plans to reduce subventions to state-owned enterprises such as Bahamas Power and Light and Bahamas Air.
Will they continue to ramp up the subventions? Will they continue to hire persons where it's questionable whether their skill set is going to improve these institutions or not?
But more than that, the Free National Movement is also expecting a debt management strategy.
We want to understand clearly how much money are we spending to service the debt that we have, and what gains have they made since they have retained the various experts, the international experts, to help them.
Prime Minister Philip Davis is expected to present the country's new fiscal roadmap in the House of Assembly on Wednesday at 10 a.m.
In the Cayman Islands, Education Minister says child abuse cases in the country are prevalent and that more child protection is needed.
Our nation's children are our greatest asset, were the words spoken by Minister for Education, the Honourable Juliana O'Connor-Connolly, during her recent Child Month statement. In addition, she says child abuse and mistreatment cases are far too prevalent in the Cayman Islands, and parents, teachers, and the community can do more.
Our children are our greatest assets. As a nation, it is imperative for those of us charged with responsibility for their care to create a safe, nurturing environment that fosters their growth and development into responsible citizens. Despite this fact, child abuse and mistreatment cases are still far too prevalent, which suggests that we have not yet managed to create a safe environment for all children.
Child Month activities were organized by the Department of Children and Family Services under the theme Investing in Our Children Means Investing in Our Future. Some activities held throughout the month for parents, teachers, and a community included church services in Grand Cayman and Cayman Brac, a mental health session in partnership with the Alex Panton Foundation, game nights in each district, and a teen panel.
In international news, China has launched a spacecraft taking 3 new astronauts, including the country's first civilian, to its space station.
Launch of the Shenzhou 16 spacecraft and another milestone in China's ambitious space program. The 3-person crew includes a civilian for the first time, academic Gui Haitao, who is serving as the team's aerospace systems specialist.
The carrier rocket has launched the Shenzhou 16 manned spacecraft to the predetermined orbit. The solar panels are extended and functioning normally. I declare the launch mission a success.
The men will replace the crew from a previous Shenzhou mission and will live aboard the Tiangong space station orbiting Earth for 5 months. Their tasks include maintaining equipment, spacewalks, and conducting scientific experiments in quantum theory, relativity, and space-time.
The space station is basically a huge laboratory. And it's a laboratory that's going to be increasingly filled with a variety of experiments and technologies from around the world. And so that is intended to, so the reason why there's a civilian is a scientist, an academic, and you need somebody with the skill and the experience and the knowledge of how to operate, maintain, delicate equipment. And that can't be done with people usually from a military background.
All astronauts on previous missions have been part of the People's Liberation Army. The space program is a source of national pride. It's remained a priority throughout the pandemic and despite a slowing economy. Completed late last year, the Tiangong is a crucial step in China's long-term space goals, including putting a crewed mission on the moon by 2030 and eventually hosting tourists and astronauts from other countries. But there are concerns about links to the military. Most launches to date have had government or military purposes. The United States excluded China from the International Space Station in 2011 and banned it from working with NASA due to security concerns.
China's achievements are challenging U.S. dominance in space. The Pentagon predicts that it could surpass NASA's capabilities as early as 2045. Right now, though, Washington is investing more than Beijing, and it has a much larger network of international, academic, and commercial partners. Katrina Yu, Al Jazeera, Beijing.
In sports, we're on the field with football. Jamaica's young reggae girls' last Group A encounter against Panama in today's CONCACAF Women's Under-20 Championship will purely be for academic purposes for both teams. The game is scheduled to begin at 2 p.m. Jamaica time at Estadio Felix Sanchez in the Dominican Republic. In the other Group A matchup, defending champions United States are to face Canada at the same venue at 6 p.m. The girls lost their chance to qualify for a FIFA Women's Under-20 World Cup as the young reggae girls were defeated 0-4 by both Canada and the United States. Jamaican Olympic and World Championship 400 meters finalist Christopher Taylor has just over another week to respond to the Athletics Integrity Unit, the AIU, regarding his notification for the anti-doping rule violation of evading, refusing, or failing to submit to sample collection. Reports are that the quarter-miler and his lawyer, Paul Green, have until Friday, June 9, to file a response to the AIU. Under the WADA rules, athletes have 14 days to respond to any doping violation accusation. And that's the news on PBCJ. I'm Simone Absalom Gill. Pleasant viewing.